I'm a member of NAR. They owe me the opportunity, especially with this audience, this great BAM audience and platform that BAM has. We keep it real with BAM. They owe their members these discussions that they're not having. This is Byron Lazine and Nicole White, and you're tuned into episode 382 of The Real Word.
Word is up.
All right, Nicole, I guess I would say I've been expecting this, but not really, because this is a very rare commodity, what we're about to break down.
Okay.
In fact, I don't ever see this happening in our industry. So Real Estate News put out a 2-part story. Shout out to the team over there. I think this is really well done. I would have preferred it in 1 part. I know that gets a little bit long, but I don't like waiting 2 days for the second part to drop. I knew nothing about this story. Part 1 is titled New Broker Group Demands Accountability from NAR. So here's the overview, okay? There's a working group of 15 executives, broker executives, representing roughly 100,000 agents. So the agents within their companies is where they're getting that total number. And they're pushing for real changes from NAR, National Association of REALTORS, around finances, governance, and legally vulnerable policies. So a lot of the things that they're pushing for is a lot of the frustrations from members, not only who listen to this pod, but across the country. Okay. They're calling themselves the Pro Agent Restore Trust in NAR Working Group. Do you like the title, Nicole?
It's pretty wordy.
It's pretty long. I knew you'd have something to say about
I mean,
that.
I wonder how long they've been working on that name too, you know?
I'd imagine it probably took them about 2 seconds. Hey, we're the Pro Agent Restore Trust in NAR Working Group. So
Did you memorize it already?
Let's just call ourselves that.
I can't even.
It is long, but the directness of the title, Pro Agent, we're going to restore trust in NAR, and it's a working group. There's a lot of work to be done.
So much work.
So I like that. Something that, and I've had this conversation as recently as last week with somebody who I dearly admire. I'm not going to mention any names, but she's very involved in NAR, in different groups within NAR. I'll just leave it at that. Really influential in that world, not only now, but over history. Her and I disagree on the approach of fixing NAR. I deeply appreciate her.
What do you think? They should just close their doors?
No, I mean, so this is the thing that I'm about to say is some people will see a clip from this podcast or see something else and like, oh yeah, Byron wants NAR to close their doors. He is just completely against NAR for the case of being against NAR. Not true. I'm bringing her up because her and I want the same thing. I want NAR to be what they've put in here, restored. So I'm in alignment kind of with this working group. I want NAR to win. NAR winning does mean more consumers win through the advocacy that NAR has proven to be a lot of the right moves over time. And it will help agents if done the right way. So we want the right thing. We just disagree completely on the approach. The approach of kind of what NAR has done over years, which is gaslighting its members, benefiting from our dues, gating conversations, creating basically a hierarchy of minds within NAR and treating everybody else as kind of I just went to see Aladdin. My daughter was in Aladdin.
Oh, you actually paid attention?
You've got all the peasants in the marketplace.
Wow.
This is how NAR looks at the members. It's just those little peasants, and they'll slap your wrist if you try to grab an apple. that's what's, and so my approach is like, you got to get it all out in the open. No more backdoor conversations. Nikea Wright, you guys know this, should be on a podcast every single week, month minimum. So this Pro Agent Restore Trust and NAR Working Group, it's top brokerage executives across the country. They see opportunities to make NAR better and serve its membership. So they haven't formed to take NAR down. They haven't tried to form a new membership, which I've talked to Jason Haber, and obviously he's partnered with Mauricio. I think that is kind of just a failed mission, starting a new membership. What would happen is you just have a collection of a dozen memberships that really
Right.
are not cohesive. So I think the approach here from this group is right. It's, let's go fix what we have. And if we can get NAR into an accountable position, hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, it'll be better for the industry. So they've got 15 members, quite a difference on their kind of board, so to speak. They're working members, these brokerages, 15 members versus 1,000 plus on NAR's board. A little bit different. I think with 15 great minds, you can get a lot more done than 1,000 kind of, fat and happy folks who don't want anything to change. So they represent about 100,000 agents. Dan Duffy, who's the CEO of United Real Estate, is the group's current spokesperson. Now, Nicole, they've chosen to, for everybody else, the other 15 members, which means the companies. Now we know one company because Duffy, United Real Estate, very fast growing company, by the way. Big company. If you haven't heard of United, they're not in your market. They're a big deal. They're a big brokerage. So we know one of the companies, but we don't know the other companies that are representative of these 100,000 agents, because they've decided to stay incognito. In their words, they want to direct attention to priorities, not to the members. So that's what Duffy says. The issues and opportunities to remake NAR to better serve its membership and improving the return on member dues are the priority here, and singular. So they're saying, we're not going to disclose who we are, besides Dan Duffy and United Real Estate, because we're so singularly focused on mission that anything else would be a distraction. Like, do you think that's the right approach? There's a lot more here. We're going to break it all down, but just that one, deciding to stay incognito, not disclosing who's on the board, is that the right approach to you, just on its face, hearing it here, maybe for the first time on the pod?
I don't know the answer to that. I would like to know who's on the board, like, especially if they're representing this vast majority of us. I don't even know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's right or wrong.
Well, they're not
Um,
representing you unless,
well, we
our
don't know.
brokerage we don't know. Our brokerage could be, so you're right. And so to that point, it's a critique I've had of NAR. Like, enough with the backdoor conversations. I like the fact that there's only 15 people and not 1,000 people like an NAR board. I know for sure 12 brilliant minds is better than 1,000 mediocre minds. Like, I know that for sure. Even
But
if
you
you
don't
have
know
12,
who these 12 brilliant minds?
yeah, we don't know who these 15 are. I'm just using 12, 15,
Yeah.
18 would be a little much. 15 might even be a
18
little
is
bit
too
much.
many?
I mean, most of these, boards of the greatest companies of all time, are, at about 12 max on a board. You get some really smart people in a room. By the way, if you had 12 brilliant people on the NAR board, the other 988 are going to dilute the living hell out of those minds.
Well, for sure. And waste time.
They're going to make those 12 people dumber. That's what they're going to do. And that's what they do. They make each other dumber. They don't get anything done. And that's also why Nikea Wright's always been in a hard position, because she's balancing her job, which is her personal motivation, with the direction of 1,000 board members that don't want anything to change. Right. So, like, she doesn't have that easy of a job. It's not like she can um, you know, control everything. She can't. Okay. So the group's members, they're not happy with what's going on at NAR and all of the reasons that we've described over, the last couple of years. So when did the group form? They formed in April of 2025. That was about a year after NAR announced the settlement. Obviously, that deal did not cover the largest brokerages in the country, leaving them to pay millions collectively. I think United Real Estate, yes, United Real Estate was part of that group. Duffy says NAR doesn't have the members, best interest in mind. I'd agree with that, on kind of a macro view. This group has, since forming in April, and this might be the first time you're aware that this group existed.
It's the
I was
first time I've
unaware.
ever heard of it.
I was unaware that this group existed, which is a little bit disappointing. I will say that.
Uh-oh. It's alright, it was just from April. Yeah, they haven't pulled the wool over your eyes too long.
I am holding lots of secrets in our industry. Not lots. I would, if there were secrets I needed to tell everybody about, I would tell you about them. But this shouldn't be a secret to me. Is part of the deal. Now, maybe their approach in the beginning was to keep it quiet to maybe encourage conversations, knowing that NAR likes backroom conversations. This is
Well,
a
or
pattern with
they
NAR.
or they were afraid of being diluted. If there was this core like you were talking, like, if there's this core 15 that
Just too
really
many people in there,
yeah, or
and,
they start like, then there's too many and let me in. I have the answers. I'm the guy." Like,
yeah, you can convince me that staying silent for a period of time, certainly in the beginning of this mission, Navy SEAL operation that they're trying to pull off, that is a good thing. I can be easily convinced of that. That there's a strong argument there. I think not disclosing the 15 members for the long term might be a miscalculation, but you can convince me that keeping this thing under wraps in the beginning, not disclosing names, maybe even now, being singularly mission focused, there's strategy to that. I like people who have strategy and process. So since forming in April, they've met with NAR leaders a few times. Sounds like two via Zoom and one in person. Following the in-person meeting, the group sent NAR CEO Nicole Wright a detailed list of questions and demands, suggesting actions the trade organization could take, and asked for NAR's feedback on their recommendations. Here are the issues. The inadequacy of the CCP clear cooperation policy requires, obviously, brokers to submit listings to realtor affiliated MLSs within one business day of publicly marketing them. The legal risk of the three-way agreement, which requires NAR members to join local, state, and the National Association if they basically want access to the MLS, or if they want to join the local, they have to join the national. But really, where the three-way agreement hurts a lot of agents is like, I got to join every single board in order just to have MLS access. So there's a monopoly on what licensed professionals can access the MLS in many states. So the legal risk of that, it seems very monopolistic. The argument against that not being a monopoly is weak. And this group is pointing out there's legal risk for NAR to have a major lawsuit by hanging on to the three-way agreement that those like Nicole Wright this spring said are critical to NAR's future. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but she made that statement on stage at the gathering, which I was at, and really defended three-way agreement. I heard from some folks recently within the last week. I can't get into that because I signed an NDA for that conversation, or I would fully get into it. But directly from NAR that are still pushing the three-way agreement and why it's so critical and why it's so important. They will not let go of the three-way agreement because it will destroy the company. It's not a company, the organization, what is supposed to be a nonprofit organization. Getting rid of the three-way would cripple it. So there's legal risk there. The group is pointing that out. The need for more transparency around NAR's restructuring plan. I mean, here's one thing Nicole Wright is doing is she is bringing in different um, people to her staff. Okay. She has, she's got special advisor Sherry Chris di- directly reporting to her, but nobody directly reports to Sherry Chris. So Nikea Wright has brought on Sherry Chris as a special advisor and is taking a lot of direction from her. Yet the chief advocacy officer, Shannon McGain, the chief economist, Lawrence Yoon, um, the innovation and tech person, the EVP, Mark uh, Birschbach, reports directly to Nikea, and the senior vice president of leadership and resources, Beth Brittingham, all report directly to Nikea Wright. Now, there have been other new hires, new leaders under that core group of 4, which has existed for some time that I just mentioned. The special advisor, Sherry Chris, I saw an org chart, Nicole,
Mhm.
that um, I won't put on the screen because I did sign an NDA on it, but it should be public, and it should be public in their annual. But Sherry Chris is floating between Nikea Wright on the top of the org chart, and then these core 4. Nobody reports to her; she reports to Nikea. That is org chart accountability chart. If you follow EOS, rule number 1: don't have somebody at the top level of leadership floating off in la la land.
Well, I think the rule is not to make up a role for somebody. You're supposed to
Correct.
have a role and then they fit into it. Sounds like they're making a role for her.
For her, she's just floating off in on her own little island. Listen, if it works, but that's like rule 101. Now you have 5 new leaders. General counsel, they brought in new general counsel, senior vice president, marketing and communications. That individual, I'm not going to give names right now, but that individual, formerly of Google and Politico, maybe not the best badge there with what kind of transpired on that company, a chief HR officer, an industry relationship. So they've got these 5 new members on leadership. Okay, so they're looking for more transparency around this restructuring plan that I kind of outlaid a little bit there. The lack of independence governance in the organization, the board's bloated balance sheet. I mean, I love this one, which it allegedly makes the association a lawsuit target. So on the balance sheet, they're holding a lot of cash still after the settlement. And this group is saying, hey, if you have a lot of cash, the ambulances are now chasing. These attorneys are chasing because they have seen you lose. You're laying on the mat, sucking wind, and they're coming for you. And all the money sitting in the bank account could be used for something else, makes you vulnerable. And then they want disclosure of financial interests in secondary century ventures and how the subsidiary benefits NAR members. So, Nicole, I don't know if, I mean, I think you know this. I would imagine that maybe on best case scenario, it's 50-50 of everybody listening knows this. NAR has a venture subsidiary.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they invest in companies, prop tech companies, property technology companies. Um, and they basically will give money or some type of benefit. A lot of these companies, when I've sat and had dinners and drinks with a lot of the companies or a lot of CEOs who have done this deal with NAR. And I'm like, hey, why'd you do it? They're like, hey, we could have gotten money from anywhere. We did it for instant introductions. Um, Again, I won't use names on that, but they do it to access people. That's why they get into the venture group, not because NAR's money is greener than somebody else's, not because they're bringing, like sometimes you take an investor in because it's smart money. Like when Sharon joined the BAM board, it's like, that's really smart. We got the smartest guy in real estate on the BAM board. We could have taken a deal from a lot of people because a lot of people wanted in. And like Sharon being a friend, Sharon being, the best person in our industry, and being just brilliant makes it a no-brainer, right? Smart money. You don't get smart money NAR. You do get introductions and maybe some favors, and that's what they've said that they've done there. So NAR welcomes any questions about the association and its practices. This is where NAR drives me nuts. Like, just it's like you go outside every day and you're like, wow, the sun rose from the east and set in the west. And they're like, no, it rose in the west and set in the east. Like, they just say things that are not true. They do not welcome any questions about the association and its practices. In fact, they get defensive and controlling and non-responsive, and there's gaps in communication. So they don't do that. They continue to gaslight people. They continue to just say words that have no meaning, which is very frustrating. United Real Estate Group's message with Wright and with Real Estate News declined to share the association's responses. They said they received them 3 months later, saying it was NAR's responsibility to speak for themselves. So they probably didn't like these responses. They're not going to put it on a pedestal. They're not going to put any light on it. They said, hey, you Real Estate News, you can go ask NAR what their responses to us were. They came 3 months later. Most agents aren't talking to the customers they've worked with in the past. It's not that they won't make the call. It's that oftentimes they just don't know what to say. It's the reason that we partnered with Reminder Media to create authentic, customized print and digital magazines to send directly to your clients that you've worked with in the past. Everyone considers their clients for life, but are you actually having conversations relevant to where they're at? This one is from Nicole right here from the pod. I got this in my mailbox. Many of her clients receive this same magazine. For somebody like Nicole, it becomes an easy conversation starter. There's something to talk about other than just calling and checking in. All of our agents who use Reminder Media and their customized magazines are finding an easier path to having the conversations with those customers they've transacted with in the past to create a client for life relationship. Make it easy on yourself, not harder. Use Reminder Media to customize your content machine directly in the mailboxes of your clients. What do you need 3 months for on some of these things?
Well, there's 1,000 of them.
Gotta go ask
Has to
1,000
go
people.
through all the proper channels.
So they said the conversation had been productive. The association appreciated that industry leaders are genuinely interested in being positive contributors to the process that NAR and its leadership are undertaking to restore trust in NAR. As am I. I want the problem fixed more so than destruction of the association. I do think it's a little bit of a parts organization, and there's certain parts that they're not willing to give up that I certainly would. This promotion and money spending over convincing consumers that they should care about the name realtor versus real estate professional or something else. So we talked about it last week, this strategic plan. And, NAR is going to keep using that as what they're pointing towards of like, we're going to answer all our questions in our strategic plan, our financial plan, our strategic plan. You're going to see that strategic plan for 2026 to 28 and our inaugural 2025 annual report. You're going to see it all. It's coming soon. It's all rolling out in early 26. So this is now what bought them another 6 months. That's what they're going to keep pointing towards. So you've got these 6 areas that they want trust restored in, and a couple things strike me as interesting. Okay, in the independent governance, the NAR has a paid leadership team of 8 people. The board of some 1,000-member directors, 95 committees, forums, councils, and boards, but no true independent board members, according to the working group. So they're like, you don't have independence governance. Now, I don't know if Real Estate News got this wrong or this independent group got this wrong, or maybe I just, in that NDA I signed last week, I saw that accountability chart that is not released to the public. It's more than 8 paid members on the leadership team. Okay. It is 11. It's Nikea Wright, it's Sherry Chris, it's the 4 incumbent leaders that I mentioned, and then the 5 new leaders. So it's 11, not 8. Not a big deal. Okay. Now, some of these salaries are grossly inflated. I cannot wait to see what we're paying Nikea on our first year on the job, how that relates to previous CEO, 3 million, range, what we're paying special advisor. It should be public. This group is saying, hey, give us 2024's 990 tax form. In May, the group asked NAR, when is the 990 tax form for 2024 made public? NAR said at the time that it would be available in the next few months. We haven't seen it. So, Nicole, we love breaking that down.
You love it.
Right?
It's your favorite thing.
They also said, like, when are we going to know the publication of the membership numbers, which was removed from the website in early 24? So they didn't comment on these specific requests, NAR, but they said the annual report will add additional context to this 2024 990 following, including details on NAR's operations priorities through 2025, but stress it will not have the same level of financial details as publicly traded companies report. So the balance sheet discussion, the $1 billion in assets and $774 million in net assets by the end of, then they had the $336 million, but they're paying that out over time. So they're still sitting on tons of cash. That's a vulnerability. Here are some of the ways for NAR to reduce its balance sheet, according to this group. Lower agent fees for a set number of years, which would also show NAR is aligned with its affiliated agents and challenges they face in the challenging market. Number 2, reimburse a portion of the legal settlement costs incurred by brokerages not covered by NAR settlement. Brokers want that.
They do. That's why this group came together.
Yeah, you just hit that one. Offer a dividend to agents whose dues collectively exceed NAR's working capital needs. Okay. And by the way, you'd free up more money if you stopped giving $50 million to Havas Media Group to run. One of the things NAR keeps saying this year, and they've said this publicly, is that they are really going to create, they said this when we covered it last week, they are really going to get focused on these campaigns and create a messaging around what realtor means for consumers. Yet, it is my belief, I'm 99% sure, I don't have confirmation, but it's my belief that Havas Media Group is still the group creating these campaigns. They pay them $50 million a year.
You should get
And
them on a pod. Have you reached out to them directly?
when you're taking $50 million to produce crappy campaigns that make no impact year over year, you're not getting on a pod. Like, Nicole, if you had if
I don't know. I just didn't know if you've asked. I feel like you've put out hooks for everybody else.
They're an enormous company. They're going to play the NAR playbook.
Yeah.
Hide behind, I can't do anything. Nicole, if the back door to the savings bank that's on the corner of, your street, if the back door of the bank was open every night and you were the only one that knew about it and you could walk in there and steal a couple gold bars, gold keeps going up, or a couple $100 bills.
Would I tell people my secret?
Yeah, would you tell people? Would you invite, hey, yeah, come interview me about where I'm getting all my money? I'll share everything with you. Okay,
I don't know, just ask. It was just a question. You're asking. Why not? Maybe they will. Maybe they'll tell you how lucrative their establishment is.
Oh, we're scamming the hell out of them. No, I don't think it's going to go quite like that. I'm a member of NAR. They owe me the opportunity, especially with this audience, this great BAM audience and platform that BAM has. We keep it real with BAM. They owe their members these discussions that they're not having. They owe us that, where we can month after month kind of have a conversation, see where they're going. Listen, Nikea Wright is very smart. In fact, I think she'd win a lot of people over in these discussions. There's not a question that I'm going to be able to ask the CEO of NAR, Nikea Wright, that is going to stump her. She isn't going to get something that's confusing. I'm not going to have the capability to confuse her. She's very smart. So that conversations of what they're doing and what they're working on, and we get a 30-day check-in on it, is going to probably win some members over to them, maybe get momentum heading in the right direction for them. So they need to do that. I'm continuing to press on that. They've shown no interest in being transparent with their members. A report coming out in 5-6 months isn't being transparent. It's kicking the can down the road. It's playing a losing playbook. We saw that playbook get demolished in November on the greatest stage. You had one candidate who was everywhere being very open and honest, whether you like that candidate or not. That's not what this is about. It's about the plays that work. What works to get support? Have conversations on as many platforms as you can. What doesn't work to get support? Create fake scripts and talking points that are only approved by you and are done randomly and infrequently. Well, that playbook doesn't work. I like the group. I don't like that we don't know all the leaders made up. It seems a little gated to me, which has been a big problem I have on the industry, but I'm willing to, I don't know Dan Duffy personally. I know that he's a great operator. I'm willing to go with the strategic plan here early, give him the benefit of the doubt. I certainly would want to know who those players are. And if that group would like anything from me, I'm happy to obviously be a part of being a part of a helping hand if I can. I'm happy to do that. Nicole,
Yeah.
do you want NAR to succeed? Do you want them to last?
I I I I I just feel like I don't have an opinion, to be honest.
And I think that's also part of the problem. Most agents don't have an opinion. And the more information they see, maybe directly from the group, how the group can benefit them, maybe is the group being held accountable? I think a lot of agents feel just like you. I've just given up on having an opinion.
Well, and again, that's why I'm surprised that this group even formed, but now that we're sort of diving into the meat and potatoes, I see that they're obviously probably trying to get some of their money back, so I feel like that may be their primary focus. Um,
Money makes the world go
it
round.
really does. So
So
I guess I don't wanna see NAR fail because I don't know a world without them. That's probably my biggest concern is like what like then what?
who steps in then? It will be a big company, a big
Yeah,
corporation. I promise you what it won't be is a well-rounded and tight-knit
yeah,
association of agents. It will not be that.
no,
So that is something that you do have that's unique, is that you have most relevant agents, most, not all, as a part of this association to impact homeowner needs and how the industry can function moving forward. And so there's value there.
I agree. I think at its
It's
core, the purpose is well intended. I
yeah.
think that we just need to cut the fat.
Yeah, it's not functioning. I mean, it's hard to listen, it's hard to run a couple miles if you're 300 pounds overweight. And shout out to Gary Ashton. He always says, I always love it when you say beluga whale. You always say beluga. They're a beluga whale. There's a lot of fat there. I call NAR the beluga whale. Needs to be a shark. And that's what's going to help homeowners and customers and agents across the country more than anything.
Sure.
Operating like a shark and not some bloated operation. And listen, I think ultimately a lot of us want the same thing. There's a stylistic difference, and the style, approach that NAR is taking is one that they've taken over the years, and one that is proven to have failed
Correct.
time and time again. And while they're saying they're doing everything differently, much of it looks quite the same. Let us know what you think down below. Love to hear from you in the comments. Nicole, that's it. We'll see them next time. Keep it real, guys.
See you guys.
Hey guys, there's really 3 things we all need to be focused on right now in this changing environment. It's build the brand, build up leads, and close more deals. So if you want the community that's #1 in helping agents close more deals, join us over in BAMX on School. It's at school.com/BAMX. I'll drop the link down below. Help get started today on building that brand, generating more leads, and ultimately closing more business. School.com/BAMX.